My name is Maya, and I'm 28 years old. Growing up, I always knew I was different from my sister Jessica. She was the golden child, the one who got the designer clothes, the private tutoring, and endless praise from our parents. Me? I was expected to be grateful for hand-me-downs and part-time jobs to build character. When Jessica announced her engagement to David, a successful tech entrepreneur, our parents were over the moon. Finally, Mom said, someone who can provide the lifestyle Jessica deserves. The wedding planning became a family obsession, with everyone focused on making sure Jessica's big day was perfect. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts at Romano's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown, trying to save money for my own dreams. What my family didn't know was that those dreams were bigger than they could imagine. But to them, I was just Maya the waitress, reliable for covering shifts, not worthy of real respect. The night before Jessica's rehearsal dinner, she called me with that familiar condescending tone. Maya, I need you to help serve at the dinner tomorrow. Some of the catering staff canceled, and honestly, you're used to this kind of work. The assumption that I'd drop everything to serve her guests hit differently this time. Something inside me shifted. The rehearsal dinner was held at our parents' country club, the same place where I'd been told as a teenager that my summer job applications were beneath the family image. I arrived early, watching the elegant setup and feeling that familiar sting of being the outsider looking in. Jessica swept in wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She barely acknowledged me before launching into commands about table arrangements and wine service. Make sure you stay in the background, she whispered harshly. This is important for David's business connections. As guests arrived, I watched Jessica transform into the perfect hostess, all smiles and charm. David seemed genuinely kind, greeting everyone warmly, including me. You must be Maya, he said with a genuine smile. Jessica talks about you all the time. The lie was so smooth I almost believed it myself. But then came the moment that changed everything. I was refilling water glasses when Jessica's voice carried across the room, crystal clear and cutting. Oh, David's asking about career advice? Well, Maya here is just a waitress, so she wouldn't really understand business matters. The laughter that followed felt like a slap across my face. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. I felt every eye on me, watching to see how the just a waitress would react. My hands trembled slightly as I continued my task, but inside a fire was building. This was the last time I'd let anyone, especially family, diminish who I was. That night I couldn't sleep. Jessica's words echoed in my mind, but what hurt more was seeing David's expression. A mixture of surprise and what looked like disappointment in his new wife. I'd always sensed he was different from the usual crowd my sister attracted, but I'd never paid much attention. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I found myself Googling David Harrison, wondering what kind of man my sister was marrying. His LinkedIn showed impressive credentials: Stanford MBA, successful exits from 2 startups, currently CEO of a sustainable tech company. But it was a recent interview in Forbes that caught my attention. In it, David talked about his investment philosophy, particularly his interest in supporting innovative food service technologies. My heart started racing as I read further. He was specifically looking for restaurant industry professionals who understood both operational efficiency and customer experience. People who had real, hands-on experience in the field. I stared at my laptop screen, my mind spinning. All those years of working in restaurants, all the nights I'd spent developing my own ideas for improving service delivery, the hospitality management courses I'd been taking online. Suddenly, they felt like more than just survival. They felt like preparation. But there was something else. David's company had recently announced a new venture capital fund focused on women-led businesses in the hospitality sector. The application deadline was in 2 weeks. I knew exactly what I needed to do. For the next week, I threw myself into preparation with an intensity that surprised even me. Years of observations from working in high-end restaurants, combined with my business coursework, had given me insights into problems that needed solving. I'd been developing a concept for a restaurant management app that could revolutionize how establishments handled everything from inventory to customer relations. I worked on my business plan between shifts, staying up until 3 a.m. refining financial projections and market analysis. My manager at Romano's, Maria, had always encouraged my ideas and even agreed to be a reference. "Maya," she told me, "you've got the best understanding of restaurant operations I've ever seen. You should be running your own place, not just working in one." The irony wasn't lost on me. While Jessica was planning her honeymoon in Tuscany, I was building something that could change my entire future. I researched David's investment criteria, studied his company's portfolio, and crafted a presentation that showcased not just my idea, but my deep understanding of the industry Jessica dismissed so easily. 3 days before I planned to submit my application, I got a call that changed everything. Romano's owner, Mr. Romano, was retiring and looking to sell. He'd watched me work for 3 years and wanted to offer me first right of refusal. The asking price was exactly what I'd been approved for in a small business loan I'd quietly secured months earlier. The pieces were falling into place in a way that felt like destiny. I scheduled a meeting with the bank, finalized my business plan, and prepared for the biggest risk of my life. Jessica's wedding was in 2 days, and I had a decision to make about how much of this to reveal. Jessica's wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather and an atmosphere of expensive elegance. The venue was a historic mansion overlooking the lake, with white roses cascading from every surface and string quartet music floating through the air. I'd been assigned to help with guest coordination, another appropriate role for the family waitress. But this time I arrived with a secret that felt like armor against every cutting remark. I watched from the back as Jessica walked down the aisle in her $15,000 dress, looking genuinely radiant. The ceremony was beautiful, and I genuinely felt happy watching Jessica marry someone who seemed to truly love her. David's vows were heartfelt, talking about partnership, respect, and building something meaningful together. For a moment, I forgot about our family dynamics and just enjoyed seeing two people commit to each other. There was something in his words about seeing the potential in others that made me wonder if he was different from the wealthy, superficial men Jessica usually dated. But the reception brought back all the familiar tensions like a cold slap. The cocktail hour was in full swing, with guests mingling on the terrace while I coordinated with vendors behind the scenes. Jessica held court at the center of attention, stunning in her reception dress, a different $8,000 creation, while I helped coordinate vendor logistics and ensure everything ran smoothly. That's when I overheard the conversation that made my blood boil. Jessica was surrounded by a group of David's business associates, their wives glittering with jewelry that probably cost more than most people's cars. "Oh, David always talks about giving back to the community," Jessica was saying with a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "He's so sweet, always looking for ways to help the less fortunate. Even my simple sister Maya, she's content with her little restaurant job, serving tables and such. Some people are just meant for simpler lives, you know?" The condescension dripping from every word hit me like a physical blow. One of the women glanced in my direction with that pitying look I'd seen so many times. "How generous of you to include her in your special day," she murmured. "It must be nice for her to see how the other half lives." "Oh yes," Jessica continued, warming to her audience. "Maya's always been the practical one. Never had big dreams or ambitions. But someone has to do those jobs, right? I always tell her she should be proud of her work ethic, even if it's not glamorous." I felt my hands clench at my sides. 3 years of 16-hour days, countless nights spent coding and testing, meetings with investors, legal documents, financial projections, all dismissed as having no ambitions. I was about to walk away when I noticed David approaching from across the terrace, his expression unreadable. That's when David approached me during a quiet moment near the bar. His presence commanded attention, tall, confident, but with kind eyes that seemed to actually see people. "Maya, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday," he said, his voice carrying a note of genuine interest. I looked confused. We hadn't really talked beyond basic pleasantries. "About restaurant operations and the challenges you mentioned with inventory management systems." My heart started pounding. I hadn't mentioned anything about inventory management to David. We barely exchanged more than polite greetings. I'm sorry, I think there might be some confusion. No confusion, he smiled, and there was something in his expression that made me realize this conversation was about to change everything. I did some research after the rehearsal dinner. Your insights about the hospitality industry were spot on, and I wanted to follow up. He paused, studying my face with the intensity of someone who just solved a puzzle. I looked into your background a bit more. Maya-chan, right? The one who's been developing the Restaurant IQ app. The world seemed to stop. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses faded into background noise. Jessica, who had been eavesdropping from nearby, probably ready to make another cutting remark about my presumption in talking to important guests, stepped closer with a confused expression. What app? Maya, what is he talking about? David's expression was shifting from curious to genuinely impressed, his business instincts clearly engaged. Your sister has developed what looks like revolutionary restaurant management software. The beta testing results she submitted to our VC fund are incredible. He turned to Jessica, his voice carrying a note of surprise. Did you know Maya's been running successful pilot programs at 3 upscale restaurants in the city? The efficiency improvements and cost savings are remarkable. Jessica's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and then something that looked suspiciously like panic. The group of women who'd been listening to her dismiss me moments earlier had grown quiet, sensing the shift in energy. Our parents, who had been chatting with relatives near the head table, noticed the commotion and started moving closer. I don't understand, Jessica stammered, her voice losing its confident tone for the first time all day. Maya works at Romano's. She's been a waitress there for 3 years. She serves tables and takes orders. David's smile widened, and I could see the entrepreneur in him getting excited about a good business story. She does work at Romano's, but she's also been conducting real-world research for her app development. Every aspect of restaurant operations, from customer flow to inventory turnover to staff efficiency. The data she's collected is incredibly comprehensive. I found my voice, feeling something shift inside me like a lock clicking open. Actually, I said, standing straighter than I had in years, my voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet terrace. I just closed the purchase of Romano's yesterday. The waitressing experience has been invaluable market research for my tech company. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the string quartet playing inside the mansion. David's eyes lit up with genuine excitement. Maya, I have to ask, are you still accepting investment partners? Because what you've built could transform the entire restaurant industry. The scalability potential is enormous. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and then something that looked like fear. Other family members who had overheard were staring at me with expressions I'd never seen before. I don't understand, Jessica stammered. Maya works at Romano's. She's a waitress. Actually, I said, finding my voice and standing straighter than I had in years, I own Romano's as of yesterday. And the waitressing experience has been invaluable market research for my tech company. David's eyes lit up with genuine excitement. Maya, I have to ask, are you still accepting investment partners? Because what you've built could transform the entire industry. The conversation that followed felt surreal. Here, at my sister's wedding reception, I found myself discussing venture capital, market penetration strategies, and scaling operations with her new husband while she stood speechless beside us. Our parents, who had overheard from a nearby table, approached with expressions of complete bewilderment. Maya, Dad said slowly, what exactly is going on? What's going on, I replied calmly, is that while everyone was assuming I was just a waitress, I was actually building a business that's about to revolutionize restaurant management. David's company isn't the only one interested. I've got 3 other VC firms competing for the investment round. Jessica's face had gone pale. But you never said anything. You let us think. I let you think what you wanted to think, I replied gently but firmly. You never asked about my goals or dreams. You just assumed that because I worked in a restaurant, that's all I was capable of. 6 months later, my life looks completely different, but the transformation has been more profound than just financial success. I'm sitting in my new office, a converted loft space downtown with exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows, watching my team of 12 developers and business analysts work on Restaurant IQ 2.0. The company has grown beyond my wildest projections, but more importantly, I've grown into the leader I always knew I could be. Restaurant IQ launched 3 weeks after Jessica's wedding with David's firm as lead investor, and the response exceeded everyone's expectations. We've signed contracts with over 200 restaurants across 3 states, from small family-owned bistros to major chain locations. Romano's has become our flagship success story, not just a testing location, but a model for how technology can enhance rather than replace the human elements that make dining special. Maria is now my head of operations, and watching her confidence bloom as she leads training sessions for new clients has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this journey. The financial transformation is undeniable. Last month, Forbes featured me in their 30 Under 30 list for food and beverage innovation. The article's headline read, "From Waitress to Tech Visionary: How Maya Chan Revolutionized Restaurant Management," and I'd be lying if I said seeing my photo in a national magazine didn't feel like sweet vindication. But the real satisfaction comes from the emails I receive from restaurant owners telling me how the app has reduced their stress, improved their staff satisfaction, and increased their profits. One wrote, "For the first time in 15 years of running this place, I actually took a vacation because I trusted the systems to work without me." The relationship with my family has been the most complex part of this journey. Jessica and I had several long, difficult conversations in the weeks following her wedding. The first one was brutal years of resentment and misunderstanding spilling out in my parents' living room, while she cried and I finally said all the things I'd been holding back. "I thought putting you down made me look better," she confessed through tears. "I was so afraid that if people saw how smart and capable you were, they'd realize I wasn't as special as everyone said." That conversation broke something open between us, but it also started a healing process. Jessica admitted that she'd always felt the pressure of being the golden child was suffocating, that she'd never been allowed to fail or struggle or figure things out on her own. "Mom and Dad expected me to be perfect, but they never expected anything from you," she said. "I was jealous of your freedom, even though I was the one with all the privileges." It took weeks of therapy, both individual and family sessions, to work through the dynamics that had shaped us. Our parents struggled the most with adjusting their perception of me. Dad later admitted that he'd seen my work ethic and independence as signs that I didn't need help, not realizing that his lack of expectations had felt like a lack of faith in my potential. "I thought I was being supportive by not pressuring you," he said during one particularly emotional family session. "I didn't understand that support sometimes means believing someone can achieve more than they think possible." Mom's journey has been different but equally revealing. She confessed that she'd been living vicariously through Jessica's achievements because she'd given up her own career dreams when she married Dad. "Seeing Jessica succeed felt like validation of my own sacrifices," she explained. "But I realize now that I was so focused on her success that I missed yours entirely." The reconciliation hasn't been perfect or complete. There are still moments of awkwardness, still conversations where old patterns try to resurface. But there's genuine effort from everyone, and that means something. Jessica has started her own journey of self-discovery, taking art classes and exploring interests she'd never been encouraged to pursue. She's even talked about starting a nonprofit focused on supporting young women in creative fields, something that would be entirely her own, not an extension of someone else's expectations. David has become not just an investor but a genuine mentor and friend. Our business relationship has evolved into something much more meaningful. He told me recently that Jessica's dismissive comments at the rehearsal dinner had actually motivated him to look deeper into who I really was. "I've learned that the most successful entrepreneurs are often the ones others underestimate," he said during our quarterly board meeting. "They develop a resilience and determination that can't be taught in business school." Our professional partnership has led to the creation of a new initiative within his firm, a fund specifically focused on supporting entrepreneurs from non-traditional backgrounds. We're particularly interested in people who've gained industry expertise through hands-on work rather than formal education, understanding that real-world experience often provides insights that academic theory misses. The fund has already supported a former construction worker who developed revolutionary building software and a retired nurse who created a patient management system that's being adopted by hospitals nationwide. The personal growth has been as dramatic as the professional success. I've learned to advocate for myself in ways I never thought possible. Last month, when a potential client tried to negotiate my rates down by saying, "It's just restaurant software," I calmly walked away from a six-figure deal. 2 days later, they called back and accepted my original terms. The woman who once let family members define her worth wouldn't recognize the confident entrepreneur who now sets clear boundaries and expects respect. But perhaps the most significant change is in how I view success itself. It's not about proving anything to anyone anymore, not to Jessica, not to my parents, not to the investors or clients or industry experts who once dismissed me. Success is about building something meaningful, creating value for others, and having the courage to pursue your vision, even when no one else can see it yet. I still work long hours, but now it's from choice rather than necessity. I still interact with restaurant staff daily, but now it's as a partner helping them succeed, rather than someone just trying to survive another shift. I still face skepticism from people who can't reconcile the successful tech entrepreneur with the former waitress, but their opinions no longer have the power to diminish me. The best part isn't the financial security or the industry recognition, though both are gratifying. It's the knowledge that I never have to minimize myself for anyone else's comfort again. I spent years letting people define me by their limitations instead of my possibilities, accepting their narrow view of what I could become. Now I understand that their inability to see my potential was never a reflection of my worth. It was a limitation of their imagination. 3 weeks ago, I was invited to speak at my old high school's career day. Standing in front of 200 teenagers, I saw my younger self in their faces, some confident and supported, others uncertain and overlooked. I told them that success isn't about meeting other people's expectations. It's about exceeding your own. I talked about the power of turning obstacles into opportunities, of finding your voice even when others try to silence it, of building something meaningful regardless of where you start. After my talk, a shy girl approached me. "Everyone says I should just focus on getting married and having kids," she whispered. "But I want to be an engineer." I looked into her eyes and saw every dream that had ever been dismissed, every ambition that had been called unrealistic. "Then be an engineer," I told her. "And when people say you can't, use that doubt as fuel to prove them wrong." That's what this whole journey has taught me. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up giving us the greatest gifts. They show us who we really are when we stop seeking their approval and start believing in ourselves. They force us to dig deeper, work harder, and become stronger than we ever thought possible. Looking back, I realized that being called just a waitress was the push I needed to stop hiding my ambitions. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up giving us the greatest gifts. They show us who we really are when we stop seeking their approval. My sister thought she was putting me in my place, but she actually helped me find it. That place wasn't serving others at their convenience. It was leading, innovating, and building something meaningful. To anyone who's ever been dismissed by family or made to feel small, your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to see it. Sometimes you have to prove it to yourself first, and the rest will follow. What surprised you most about this story? Was it the tech twist, the family dynamics, or something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about turning life's challenges into triumphs.